Hello, Hero Club. This is Wheelchair 21, and I'll be joined by Soundout 12 for another interview. Tonight, our guest is an esteemed voice actor. He is none other than Neil Kaplan.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for joining us. It's been a long time coming since we met you at Power Morphicon in 2018, actually.
Right on.
And you probably don't remember us, but you actually signed my wheelchair.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
You signed that giant wheel that I showed you. Yeah. All right, so for our interview, we originally had probably a good, plentiful amount of questions, but due to the time constraints, we will try to get to the nitty-gritty of what we've been hoping to ask you. So to start off, one of the things is several fans are actually unaware that you got your start in comedy outside of just reading the Wikipedia page. So could you actually talk to us about why you began as a comedian or what made you want to start out as a comedian?
Well, I don't know if I was really, when I first started out, if I was really so much of a comedian, excuse me, as much as I was an impressionist. So most of my comedy was an excuse to get from impression to impression and, little punchline sort of a situation. I got out of stand-up before, I really started pursuing it professionally. I mean, I've always been interested in it, and I do some hosting every now and then, and we'll do a couple of minutes here and there, hopefully for fundraisers and friendly crowds. I think probably the same thing that kept me from getting too deep into stand-up is what led me to voiceover, and that is just nerves. Not wanting to bomb on stage. I mean, look, my friends who are stand-ups and they're good at it, I love them. I respect them. They do something that I just sit there and go, wow, they make it look so easy. And I get up there and I lock up, and kind of forget the rules of, people are there to have a good time. People are there to laugh. They don't really want to see you suck. What we see in the movies and in the TV shows about, hecklers sometimes is a little overblown. But be that as it may, my stand-up career was short-lived. But my tendency is I lean toward comedy. I love stage comedy. I love improv, sketch. I did improv for a little while. And again, kind of backed off of improv because I just have this desire to get the joke right, not necessarily get it quick. And so I tend to, I think, be a little bit better with sketch than with improv. But all of those things, I think, come into play when we're talking about voiceover. And that's why I love it so much.
All right. That led completely into your transition, correct? There was nothing really else that affected how you wanted to become a voice actor or just start dubbing in general?
Yeah, I just had always been fascinated with voices and impressions and, what Mel Blanc did and Dawes Butler. And I was studying musical theater in New York and was at a party where I met a DJ who, after a little conversation, he asked me if I would do some drop-ins for his radio show. So I went in one day into the studio and just me and a piece of paper and a pencil and thought of some different, again, the excuse for doing the impression, the excuse for telling the one-liner or whatever, wrote him a bunch of drop-ins for his show and got in the booth and started laying him down and felt better in the recording booth than I ever felt on stage.
All right. How exactly did you come to work with Saban Brands? What was the process on how you got your job there?
Saban, I basically, believe it or not, answered an ad in the newspaper. They put out an ad looking for voice actors, and I sent in my tape, and they called me. They liked what they heard, and they brought me in, and I got to be a part of the family, starting with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 2.
That's where we're actually going to transition to. Sound this one's for you. You can take this question then.
All right. So with your earliest roles being part of Saban's shows, you were doing basic Monsters of the Week, but in Lightspeed Rescue, you got to become a main villain.
Yep.
Do you have to audition for that specifically, or did they offer?
Yep. No, that was a straight up audition. They obviously had some people that they had in the bullpen that they liked, and they brought us in and read for stuff, and they bring in other folks that they had used throughout the years there. And I just laid something down that they liked. And, they liked what they heard, and they knew that I was trustworthy, and gave me a shot. I had a pretty good time working on that season.
All right. So in terms of that, it's a live action series versus, an animation series.
Sure.
So was there a different feeling when doing vocal performances when you're dubbing over pre-existing footage or something that was shot in live action versus when it was shot in animation? I know particularly with, Diabolico didn't have a moving mouth. So that, imagine, would be part of the process difference there.
Well, anytime you're laying down a vocal track to something that already exists, it's pretty much the same. Doesn't matter if it's animated, if it's live action, anime or Power Rangers, it's all the same thing. So, in the case of somebody like Diabolico who doesn't have the moving mouth, you just try to make it work with the body language that the actor in the suit is giving you. Certainly, if you've got a character that's got a face mask, like an Optimus Prime or somebody like that, it's a little easier to have a little bit of leeway here and there as far as timing and what you're doing with the scene. But, like I've, over the last couple of years, been working on a lot of live action dubbing for Netflix with a bunch of the series that they're bringing over from other countries. And it's pretty much the same thing. The acting style might be a little bit different than anime, but of course, that depends what you're working on. Some live action stuff may be like Power Rangers. Some live action stuff may be, closer to Hill Street Blues. So just, you put your faith in your director and that they know the material that you're working on, and hopefully the two of you come up with something good.
Right, all right. So after Diabolico, you went to work on Digimon, specifically main character Hawkmon.
Yeah.
How did you prepare to get to that character? I know that the character itself has a very distinctive voice, so is there anything in particular of how you got, kind of into the tone of voice or the vocal range that Hawkmon lived in?
We're talking about stuff from 20 years ago, and the difference between working on camera and doing voiceover is on camera, at some point in time, you memorize the scene. So somewhere in the recesses of your mind might be the memory of the audition scene you did for a movie 20 years ago. But when you're reading stuff off of a page, not a whole lot of that stuff sticks. For the longest time, I really didn't remember much about the beginning of Digimon until a fan asked me a question at a convention, and he brought up this commercial from the 1970s from Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pops and reminded me that I had told the story that Hawkmon was based a little bit on Mr. Owl from those commercials. But I can't tell you how he went from this Ivy League professor to this prissy British pain in the ass, for lack of a better term. But that's what Hawkmon became, He just, a little on the prissy side, a little bit on the hard to please side, but he was loyal and, certainly with all his derivations was certainly heroic enough. But I couldn't tell you anything more than that. I don't remember the audition. I don't remember, I just remember recording it up at the top of the tower on Wilshire Boulevard.
All right. So let's move ahead, just down the little timeline here. Next big role, also a Saban production, I believe, was Optimus Prime from Robots in Disguise. I imagine with other voice roles where it's new characters, was there something daunting about playing Optimus Prime, being a character that was established as part of a multimedia franchise that's had multiple incarnations before? Was there any sort of intimidation coming into that role specifically?
Well, first of all, when I did it, there weren't multiple incarnations. There was one. There was Peter Cullen in G1, and that's it. I was the second one to step into the role, and I actually didn't even audition for Optimus Prime. I read for a couple of other characters, and, I'm walking out of the studio, and I look in the control room, and look up on the screen, and there's a freeze frame of Optimus Prime. And I just kind of heard Peter Cullen in the back of my mind, and I thought, wait, I do that. And so I asked him, hey, can I read for that character? And the director at the time looked at me and said, no, Neil, don't worry about it. We've got plenty. A couple weeks later, he called me and asked me if I could do that thing that I had done in the audition previously, which was for the SUV X-Brawn. And I gave him something Southern, because that's what it said on the description of the character. And I gave him something with some texture, because I figured if it's a Southern SUV, you're going to take him off-road. You're going to kick up some rocks in the undercarriage. So gave him, something like this. Well, howdy, man. My name is X-Brawn. And the director calls me and says, hey, the producers want to know if you can do that thing you did, but without the Southern dialect. It's like, can I do the voice I created without the Southern dialect that I laid on? Yeah, I think I can. Why? Well, they think you sound like Optimus Prime, and we don't have enough time to audition you, so wanted to bring you in, record the first episode, and if they like you, we'll keep it. I guess they liked it.
I guess so, yeah.
All right, I'm picking back up with the next couple of questions. So, have you and your castmates ever thought to, help make a media push to release the series in North America on home video? Have you ever tried to, get a big boom to, get Hasbro to recognize that the show hasn't been seen at all in North America since 2001?
No, that's not our place. That's up to the fans. That's up to the fans to say something. Show me one instance in the history of entertainment where an actor has stepped forward and said, do this for this show I was in. Remake this show. Make the sequel. Release it here. They don't do that for us. We are artists, and we're happy to participate. We're happy to be a part of the creative process. But as far as decision making and spending money like that, it's not our place.
So what's your thoughts, though, on why it hasn't been at least redistributed in North America?
My understanding, and I could be totally wrong, is that the rights were split on that series. That basically it was Saban held part of the rights, and because it was on Fox Kids, Fox held part of the rights. And when Disney bought Saban, Disney then acquired part of those rights, and Fox had the other part of those rights. And my understanding is that until Disney bought Fox, there was no reason for them to figure out a plan and release it, because it just wasn't going to make either party enough money to even worry about it.
All right, so it's one of those ones of now that Disney has the full license back. I
don't know for certain,
yeah.
But that's the rumor that I had heard, 15 years ago. So it would stand to reason that if that's the case, that Disney actually holds the rights to that series, and it's up to them. But who knows?
All right, that's very understandable. And so since we want to make sure we get you where you have to be, our other questions we had were mostly Voltron related. And so with you being King Zarkon in Legendary Defense,
Emperor.
Oh yeah, Emperor Zarkon. Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Time they used Emperor versus King, because the original series he was King. Yeah.
I know.
What were your expectations for the series before its premiere, and what was your actual reaction following its premiere and its notoriety and its success similar to the original series?
I had no expectations whatsoever until I walked in there and saw the actors who they had hired, saw some of the artwork, and I think maybe it was my second session, saw that they had brought in Andrea Romano. And you bring in Andrea Romano to direct something, somebody's got some faith in it. Number one. Number two, it's going to be good. So that certainly upped my expectation level a little bit. And what were my reactions? I thought it was good, solid storytelling and some of the most attractive animated space battles I've ever seen in my life. The camera work and the detail and the mixing of the more digital animation alongside the cell style animation, I thought was just beautiful. And look, there were a couple of episodes that were some of my favorite episodes of animated television that I've ever seen. I will always love Space Mall. and the feud. There a lot of talented people put in a lot of hard work on that show.
What was, I shouldn't say what, but how did you feel about Emperor Zarkon's overall story arc in the program, and do you think his death helped or hurt the show in some areas?
I liked where the arc was heading. Look, I think it got cut off prematurely, but that's not my decision to make. Do I think it helped or it hurt? I don't think that that's really something appropriate for me to comment on, because no matter what I say, it can very easily be misconstrued as not coming from a fan, but coming from an actor on the show, from an employee. And so I'll just leave it like I said before. A lot of talented people did a lot of really good work on that show.
Thank you, because we were just hoping if you had any insight to share, and that's good enough to hear.
I have a lot of insight. I have a lot of stories, and they will remain mine.
All right, that's fine. That's good to hear. We don't want to pressure you. We don't want to push you in any way.
No, I got it. We're
trying to keep
by the way, people can read into that all they want. There are plenty of good stories in there too. They're just not completely mine to tell. I signed papers, number one. Number two, it's like I said before, it's not my story to tell.
Yeah, it's showbiz, so there's always something that's pulling the strings behind the curtain, of course. So this question's actually rather interesting. If you're unaware or don't know, Netflix has lately been doing deals with Toei Animation to bring over old vintage animes. Since they have the new Saint Seiya CGI anime, they redistributed the original 80s anime and provided a new dub. Hypothetically speaking, if World Event Productions and DreamWorks also thought to collaborate with Toei to redistribute Go Lion or Die Rugger 15 in North America with new dubs, would you actually jump at the chance to be a part of those productions? And would you want to continue voicing Zarkon, or would you want to just be other characters within those shows, since there's a variety of people in the original 80s animes?
Yes.
All right, that's the only answer. Just yes.
Hey, look, I'm an actor. I like new opportunities to work. If they called me, I wouldn't sit there and say I've got to play Zarkon. And to be honest with you, I know the guy who played him originally, and I don't know that I would want to necessarily take his role. I would hope that they would. I would hope they'd offer it to him.
Yeah, because I would think if they would do a dub, they would try to bring back some of the original Voltron cast to be a part of it, rather than just entirely replace them. But since it's also Netflix, I saw that Netflix also seems to just hire who they can hire versus who companies think they should hire.
But that gets into business and politics and things like that really aren't so much my place to comment. I love being a part of a story that's told. I love creating characters. I wouldn't sit here and lose sleep over whether they're going to call me or not. But if they call me, as long as the offer is fair, then more than likely I would work on it and do something fun. But by no means would I sit there and say, hey, I got to do this or I got to do that. It's, I'd be more than happy to voice a Robeast. But, like I said, the King Zarkon was Jack Angel, and I'd prefer if they called him first. Now, if Jack wasn't available or wasn't interested, but I gotta say, if they offered it to me, you wouldn't hear the same thing, because King Zarkon is a completely different character from Emperor Zarkon. It wouldn't be like, hey, that's the same voice coming out of a different face. That doesn't fit. That doesn't work.
That's completely understandable. So, sound out. Want to start leading us out with the last few questions we have?
All right. So, you're a fairly sociable person, whether online or at events. What compels you to keep an open dialogue with your fans, and what do you take from their interactions with them?
Look, I'm a probably like most of the people who enjoy the stuff I work on. I'm a nerd. I'm slightly socially awkward. I just, it's the golden rule. It's just treat people the way you want to be treated. And I know how giddy I get when Mark Hamill answers one of my tweets. I know how much I appreciate it after seeing a Broadway show and hanging out by the stage door and speaking to one of the actors. And they're not talking to me because I'm a colleague. They're talking to me because I enjoy their work and I'm just talking to them, just another human being on the planet. And that's when push comes to shove, I take up basically the same amount of space on the planet that you guys do. I mean, why shouldn't I?
Absolutely.
It's like, look, I could selfishly say that I'm hoping at some point in time, somebody who likes my work ends up being a billionaire and will call me and say, hey, would you do my voicemail and pay me an exorbitant amount of money so I won't ever have to work again? Or one of my fans will own a nice piece of property, and when they see me in my old age living in a box under the freeway, they'll say, hey, I got a guest house. Come live with me. Or they'll pull a Quentin Tarantino and I can be somebody's Travolta and have my career rescued. It's just a circle. We live in a circle, and you just you take a little and you give a little, but you can't just take, and it still trips me out that there are people who know my name or have grown up listening to my work. And the best way to appreciate that good energy is to give some of it back.
Absolutely. So what do you contribute or attribute to your longevity and success as a voice actor? And
I don't know that I have. I guess I've been doing it a while, but I don't look at it as longevity, and I don't look at where I am as success, because I'm just a guy in the middle. I don't have these iconic creations like Rob Paulson. I don't work as often as Maurice LaMarche or Billy West. But I look at some of the movies I watched when I was growing up, and somebody may remember that Peter O'Toole starred in the movie. I remembered that Alan Garfield was in it. I'm a character actor. I'm blessed to still be considered, for projects. I'm hoping, and the beautiful thing about voiceover is there's still room for your best days to be ahead of you, which when you're a face, you age out of that. You don't look as good anymore. And maybe your best days are behind you when you're younger, or you're a baseball player and you retired at the age of 32, or you're a dancer and you had to retire at the age of 27. I'm in my 50s and I'm still plugging away and still auditioning and working every now and then. And like I said, still honestly go to sleep every night thinking my best days lie ahead of me. That's inspirational, and that's a reason to get out of bed in the morning. That's a reason to audition for something else, because I got this one sheet of paper and it looks really interesting. And who knows what that leads to? Is that going to be 1,000 episodes like Naruto? Or is that going to be just a couple of weeks? Or is it just going to be one day in a studio and having a lot of fun? But you go in there, you lay down the job, you walk out the door, it's over. The sad part about voiceover sometimes is that sometimes the joy of the creation, the joy of the job can be easily lost by that moment when you're walking out the door and thinking, what's my next job? Where do I go next? What else is on the calendar for this week? As opposed to, it's almost like finishing a great meal. And instead of sitting there and patting your belly and picking your teeth and going, that was really good, I really enjoyed this aspect of that meal and that aspect of this meal. And I may never have that meal again, but it was exquisite. Or I may never have a meal as good as that, but dag nabbit, I'm going to sit here and enjoy it for however long it takes and just relax and enjoy. I'm a working actor. I don't lean back and enjoy anything, you know. By the time we had a rap party for Voltron, I was already 2 or 3 projects down the road or wondering what's my next session. So one of the things I have to work on as an actor and as a human being is to be in the moment. Nothing is promised us. Live in the moment and enjoy what's there right then, right now.
Wonderfully inspirational words. Yeah, that's I think something that a lot of people could take away from that is that be in the moment, because nothing is promised.
Look, you know, this weekend people are going to tune in to Disney Plus and they're going to watch Hamilton. And you got a couple of choices. You can sit there and worry about the world outside or be disappointed or be concerned, or you can let that go because it ain't going anywhere. Press play and allow yourself to enjoy some art. And sometimes that's Hamilton, and sometimes it's a sunset, sometimes it's walking our dog, and sometimes it's a job we're working on. Not to be too dark, but I lost both of my parents suddenly. No warning, no nothing, no months of preparation or anything like that. And friends of mine and I have the discussion all the time. Was there an advantage to that or a disadvantage to that? And I usually say, it is what it is. It's life, you know, but I got lucky with both of my parents. I had just seen them. And I allowed myself, without knowing it, to be in those moments. The only thing I'll add to that is something that somebody really smart said to me once. He said, the greatest lessons in life aren't the ones we're taught as much as the ones we're reminded of. So half of this stuff we knew when we were 5 years old. We just forgot along the way, whether we forgot because we were learning something in school, or we forgot because we were memorizing baseball statistics, or we were trying to remember every line from each episode of Bleach, or whatever it is. So every now and then, just take a step back, take a breath, remember the simple parts. Twitch is great. PlayStation is great. Technology is fantastic. You and I are able to chat. We can stay physically distanced and we can chat. We can have a conversation. That's a good thing.
Absolutely.
But every now and then, step away. Look at a sunset. In my neighborhood, listen to the peacocks shrieking down the road.
Peacocks?
Just the one. Just the
okay.
one.
I was like, wait, you live near a zoo? That's pretty cool.
Nope. This one's wild. This is Percival. He comes to our neighborhood, like, for a couple months, then he takes off, and he comes back, and he's the king of the neighborhood these days. Everybody's putting up pictures. He's got his tail going, and he's screaming and saying, I need me a mate. It's funny. There are people in my neighborhood who hate it, and I think, this is something beautiful and rare. Enjoy it, because he's going to be gone one day, and you're going to miss it. And it's just, look, take my advice. Every now and then, be a tourist where you live. Don't be so cool that you miss the fun stuff. All right? And now that Uncle Neil has given you plenty of advice and lessons and sounded enough like an old man, you know, we'll hope that we see you at Power Morphicon 2021 as we skip over from the odd years to the even years. And it should be June, I think 18, 19, and maybe 18 through the 21st. But it's that weekend. So hopefully we'll see you there next year, brother.
Hopefully so. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to promote for upcoming projects or anything?
Play Crucible on Amazon. It's fun.
All right.
So with that being said, this has been a Hero Club interview with Mr. Neil Kaplan. You can check us out at hero-club.com. You can follow us across social media at Hero Club for Life. And you can also follow Neil Kaplan on Facebook, Twitter, and are those the only platforms you have right now, sir?
Instagram is Kneecap Pics, Twitter is Kneecap, and Facebook would be Neil Kaplan Voice Actor.
All right. Thank you for giving us that information, because we will also make sure it is in the description below, where you'll be able to see this interview featured on YouTube and eventually on, most likely, iTunes, if we can get the dang Spotify to work for us correctly again. All right, and with that, we'll see you all next time.